privileged enough to meet you all. However, if you do not know me, my name is Kat and I'm in my second year here at college. When I first arrived at Georges, I didn't know anyone, was scared to death about moving to the other side of the country, and the sheer volume of freshers in their red shirts was incredibly overwhelming. Georges brings people together from all over the world and connects them in a way that is unbeknownst to many. That first day, even though I felt completely lost, I made my very first friend here. From there, I made my home in this castle and found a family that I will cherish for the rest of my life. Now, I stand in front of you today, expressing my love for this college and why it would be my absolute honour to lead you all through 2021 as your senior student and continue to ensure Georges is the inclusive, welcoming, safe haven it always has been for me. The beautiful friendships I've made, the wonderful staff that truly care about us, and the family in the most amazing home. This is why I'm running for senior student, because I want to make sure everyone finds their friends, builds their family, and feels at home inside these castle walls. I'll build upon the foundations that have been set before me, continue the culture and community that has been built, and enhance the inclusivity and diversity that we pride ourselves on. This year, I've been privileged enough to be the College Club Secretary. I've learnt the value of communication, organisation, and reliability. Alongside Shay and the rest of exec, we led a strong, effective team, and through this role, I formed a very strong bond with admin and the entire student body. Alongside these important qualities, my passion and love for this college makes me a strong candidate to be your 2021 senior student. As I've outlined in my broadsheet, I present some of the ideas that make up my vision for 2021. At Georges, we have an amazing culture and a strong sense of community, something instilled in the freshers in O-Week. Continuing Shay's International O-Week is imperative, but I've also spoken to Student K and Ian about reducing O-Week by 1 day, to allow 2 full days between the intense O-Week schedule and semester starting. Returners would still be on the Saturday night, but by providing an extra rest day, this would aim to allow time to relax before semester begins. As well as this, an inter-college scavenger hunt across the entire college road during O-Week would foster positive relationships between our freshers and residents from other colleges. I want to work with each member of committee, the social officer and the secretary to present a wide range of diverse and inclusive events that everyone feels as though they can get involved in. Georgians are givers. We give a lot to each other, our commitments, but most importantly, our community. By holding a charity event where we get to work within our tube groups to give back to our community is a great way to give and provide support to those who really need it. As well as this, I would like to establish more volunteering opportunities in places such as nursing homes or animal shelters and get them recognised by our respective universities on our academic transcripts. Through the opportunities that college provides us, I aim to increase the range of speakers at formal dinners and fireside chats, utilise our Georgian network by inviting them to art club or providing masterclasses, and I will work closely with the newly established academic committees to achieve this goal. I want to continue the informal language classes, book club and study competition that we established during isolation, as well as working with the community rep to enhance Eco Week to promote more sustainable life habits. In terms of facilities and resources, I want to revamp Dungeon into an inclusive exercise space to promote well-being. As well as this, I would love to create even more outside areas, such as making full use of foyer balcony for morning coffees, ensuring all study areas promote productivity, and purchase some games for clubbies, as well as new cooking equipment for Rogerson Cafe. I would like to make an effort to move towards a single-use plastic-free kitchen and create a system to provide your own container for late dinners. Communication is the most important part of teamwork, something I've excelled in while in the position of secretary. As senior student, I will promote further communication between the committee and admin, as well as between the vice president and Georgians. I will continue Shay's mission to improve transparency through student care and the entire college, as well as ensure the accountability of every committee member by holding individual meetings to check in and make sure they're up to date. Lastly, I'll collaborate with the senior RA to maintain a strong relationship between College Club and RAs to ensure the smooth running of Georges. As senior student, I want to connect people, to create a positive environment in which we can all grow and thrive into the young adults we are destined to be. If I'm so lucky to be elected, I promise to pour my heart into this place to represent each and every one of you individually, as well as Georges as a whole, to the best of my ability. Georges is my home, and every single one of you is my family. It would be my absolute honour to represent you all as a 2021 senior student.
Thank you so much, Kat. Next up, we have Crispin. really rather appreciative if you'd vote for me for senior student. Having been at college for a little while, I feel that I can speak with confidence when I tell you all that this college, it's pretty good. But could it be better? Yes, it could. College can be better. College should be. College could be better, college should be better, and college will be better. Now you may be thinking, Crispin, how will college be better? And let me tell you, I don't know quite yet, but I'll get back to that in a moment, so please just hold with me. Those who read my broadsheet might have found that it was a bit sparse, so I kind of wrote a lot and didn't say much because, well, for two main reasons. Firstly, I don't actually know what you all really want. I mean, I can take a guess. I could, I've listened around, I've seen around, I can kind of get a gist. But why would I guess what you want when I could just ask you? And that is my first promise. I intend, if elected, to create a greater level of influence of all college residents over the decisions that will affect all of us, so that we all may have our say and we all may have our voices heard, so that we can create a college environment that matches what we all want much more effectively than we could if, say, you voted once for two people who delivered you dull word salads of meaningless claims and promises to be forgotten. Having called out presidential claims and promises being meaningless, which I just did if you didn't notice, the second reason that I don't know if I said this right. Yeah, I have. Having called out the presidential claims and promises as meaningless led neatly into the second reason that my spreadsheet has been so sparse, which is, I know that you know that we know that we can't actually promise you anything if admin don't like it. That's just how it works. I can't promise you that I'll open the tower or refurbish the dungeon into a gym, or I can't promise you that I'll make the food any better. That's just not how it works. But that doesn't mean that there aren't things that we can improve. That doesn't mean there aren't things we can improve. Just things that I can't improve. Just things that she can't improve. And just things that the exec can't improve. Things that you need to improve. Just because there are things that can't be given to you doesn't mean there are things you can't have. I believe if we want to make the college a substantially better place than it is now, it requires the effort of much more than one group of individuals, but rather a collective effort that encompasses all of us here. And that is my second promise, is that I will not only create a platform for communication between residents and the exec, but also a platform for discussion and organisation between all residents, so that we all may act as individuals and as a community beyond any given group to create the changes we'd like to see. I've missed a part, and I don't have to go back to it. I've got two things that I'd like. I'd like for you all to be able to talk to exec, and I'd like for you all to be able to talk to each other. I believe that exec can give you a lot, but not quite everything, and if you want things, you're going to have to do it for yourself. I believe the fact that we all rely so heavily on the notion of official events and not just doing things as we like is not good for the community. That was a bad way of saying it. This is crashed and burned. Do what you want. I'm going to do what I can. That's not everything. Thank you all. Please vote for me.
Thank you, Crispin, and thank you to both of our residents. You've heard speeches, and now we'll move on to question time. If you have a question, please put up your hand. James will be running around with a microphone. And candidates, if you can try and keep your questions just to around about 1 minute, 2 minutes, that'd be great. Okay, so can we have first questions?
Hi, thank you both for your speeches. The question that I would like to pose to you, which I have asked previous presidential candidates, because I think it's an important part of the role, skills do you think that you bring in particular to represent us to the board members who are often quite a different demographic to us living here now? How do you feel you can cope with that sort of difference and making sure that we are fully represented to them?
In representing the current wishes of all of you here to the board, I feel that I am qualified to do this due to a strong willingness not to bend on what is expressed to me. I will express to them what you've expressed to me directly. I will feel no pressure to abide by what they want over us, and I believe that I can go to them and express what we want to happen and what will happen, and I think I've got the determination to do so.
Thanks for your question, Charlotte. I think this year as SEC, I've got a really good rapport with all of you, and I think that I could say that I know every single one of your names. And I think that comes in handy, and it's really important to kind of hear all your ideas and understand what you guys really want. And from that, I've also worked a lot with admin this year, who is a different demographic to us as residents. So I think that this year I've kind of built the skills to work with people who are a little bit older or who might not have the same sort of ideologies as us. So I think, yeah, being able to do residents and admin is something that I've really worked on this year and something that I'll continue to next year.
Question for you both. What are your thoughts on next year actively collaborating with the other colleges, not just for the benefit of St George's, but for the benefit of other colleges to share what we do well?
Thank you for your question, Connor. So I've actually had a meeting with Connor about all things RSD, maybe not all things, but a lot of things RSD. And I think that there's some things that we at George's do really well. Our music program is incredible. I don't know if you guys, some people might underestimate that. And I think some other colleges do things really well. Tommy does sports really well. St Cat's does Indigenous culture really well. So I think kind of having, seminars or concerts or like sharing ideas, sharing knowledge, and like being able to have things where we can all work together to come together as College Road, not just as a singular college.
I believe that there is a significant opportunity for us all to improve the quality of our time here through engagement with other colleges and also with the university. I think that maintaining a positive relationship and expanding what we already do with them could be a very good idea. As for helping other colleges, I do not care about other colleges. I believe that they can help us. I don't need to help them. I will exploit them to the fullest to give the best that I can to all of you, and that will be it.
A question to both of you. With the current circumstances, thanks to the plague that's run through, there's been a bit of disconnect between freshers and old residents, and we've been trying to, in recent times, there's been working, re-organising that relationship, but how are you going to ensure that that relationship strengthens into the future?
So, I think that all that can be done in that sense of improving what you've just mentioned is really, I think there's an issue there in suggesting that there is an easy fix to that. I think that's less something that can be dealt with by any given exec or member of exec, and really something that requires the efforts of everybody. I think if you personally feel that there are relationships that you could and should be working on, then you really ought to be doing all that you can. In aiding that, I suppose certain events could try to push that, such as we see in Dragon Games and Tute Group events. There are, instances that bring together people of different year groups, returns and freshers. But really, I do believe that is a more individual issue than something that can be solved by any one overarching policy.
Thank you for your question, Quinn. I think that they have been something that has kind of dropped a little bit during COVID, but I think that Shay and Braden, especially this semester, have been doing their best to get it, make steps to bring it back. And I think it's not something that you can just fix overnight, but I think it's something that we can put in the steps of events, events with Georgians that anyone can go to, events that are kind of uni-focused rather than year-level focused, stuff that everyone wants to get involved in from a wide variety of residents. And I think that hopefully with restrictions easing, that's going to be something that's going to be really important to improving those relationships.
Any other questions?
If we are hit with a second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, what action plan would you guys put into place to make sure that the college runs as smoothly as normal?
Thank you for your question, Emma. I think being on exec this year really helped me to understand. We just got thrown in the deep end, and I think that during our isolation we managed to create a pretty awesome calendar of fun things that you guys got to get involved in all the time. And I think that if we were to be hit with a second wave, that we know what to do, we know how to do it, and while it's going to be a tough time again, I think that, bring back what we did. I think everyone had a good time. Yeah, thanks.
If the college were affected by a second wave of the plague, I think that the best course of action would be to try and motivate people to stay based on what is being offered. I think it would be to the benefit of everybody if we were to try and create some mechanism by which we can monitor when people are coming and going. I don't think I don't know if it came into effect. There was talk about making people stay, and there was Ian's angry email. I don't think that's a very good policy. I think that just makes people lie. So I think in a sense of there should be monitoring, not restrictions on coming and going, and events to keep people entertained while they're here, so they don't feel the need to. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any final questions? Okay, I have one to close. So when I was doing my speech last year, Jen asked a question about being a role model in a place where you live. I would like to change that question and ask, how do you plan to address your own weaknesses? And in that, how do you ensure both your team's success and your own success and well-being? And then following on from that, how do you separate professional criticisms from personal attacks on character while you're in, effectively, what is your home in a place that you live and a place that you work? Thank you.
answer that question. How would I address my weaknesses and how would I separate personal attacks and more appropriate critiques? I think I'll answer the second part first, that's easier. In separating between personal attacks and sort of critique of just how I'm acting, I think that's less to do with the individual receiving it and more to do with understanding what's being said. I think the separation between critique and attacks is, it's very much based on what's being said, isn't it? If someone says, I don't like that you've done this, you can take that as a statement and then address that. If someone comes up to you and says, you're a blithering idiot, that doesn't seem as much constructive criticism as it does having a go at someone. So, I don't know, you just got to, on the moment, determine on that latter half of the question. For the first half of the question, addressing my own personal weaknesses, I would like to give you all a simple summary of how I plan to address all my personal flaws, but like all people, they are numerous and you've got to just work on being the best that you can. I hope that I can be a better version of myself and don't warrant too significant degree of criticism or insult, but I am prepared to face either. Thank you.
For me, asking for help has always been the hardest thing to do. Delegating, being like, hey, can someone help me out on this? I think I really struggled with. Working as sec this year though, I think you have to understand that everyone on the leadership team has their strengths and sometimes they're going to do a much better job of it, they have more time. So I think I've really learned that this year. I'm not the best yet, but I think that's something I'm going to work definitely on, as I know it's a weakness, something that I can work on into next year. Personal attacks versus...
How would you
separate
personal attacks and personal criticism?
I think a criticism is something that you can work to fix in the future. I think if someone's like, don't agree with how this is going, that is something that you can work on to fix in the future. I think an attack is on your character. I think that's something you'd be like, okay, I appreciate your opinion. Again, work on it in the future. And there was one more dichotomy between... Sorry, I'm so sorry, that was a long time ago.
It was how do you work with that within the place that you live?
Yeah. I think that's been one of my biggest challenges this year, living and working in the same place. Having meetings on my bed is not ideal. I've definitely sort of been looking into ways that I can separate my living space and my own space with my workspace, and that's something that I've spoken to student care about and I'm looking for in next year.
A huge thank you to both our candidates. Can we give them another round of applause? Okay, so voting will be held tomorrow. At all meal times, there will be committee members next to the voting box. Please come along, vote, it is compulsory, and we'll find out who the next city student is by the end of the week. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming.